Revise on hard copy. Yeah, the more we know about learning and technology, the more we know that we do not learn as effectively through the keyboard and the screen, unfortunately. Right? I have a second master's degree in instructional design for online learning, and part of what we look at is how we use technology to communicate and to educate. And so there's just all sorts of interesting studies about learning and technology. And one thing that I know for sure works is printing out your paper and editing on the paper as opposed to just editing on the screen. Don't get me wrong, editing on the screen is better than not editing at all, but it's not going to be as effective or as efficient than if you print out that paper and just start making your changes. You might want to triple space your essay so that you have plenty of room to write above or below the sentence when you want to change things. And don't print it out back to, front to back pages. Leave the back page blank so you can put a little arrow in the margin and flip it over and rewrite if you need to write anything, right? So give yourself space to write. Revise on paper, not on the computer. Another technique is reading your draft out loud, hearing it, or having somebody read it to you. That can help you hear problems with flow, like things like choppy sentences. It can help you identify missing words, anything like that might help. Take advantage of opportunities to get feedback, right? So, we're going to talk about the different ways you get feedback. You want to get good feedback. But definitely having other people read it or listen to you read it to them is a really integral part of being better as a writer. I belong to a circle of friends, and we will, get together and we will read this is mainly creative writing, but we'll read our stuff out loud, especially if we're preparing to go to a conference where we've been asked to read our work. It's about sitting there in the chair with other people who are doing the same thing and reading and then getting their feedback about not only the content, but how are we presenting it, right? So, again, get good feedback. Try not to get overwhelmed. Take it a step at a time. That's why we break this into the process so that how do I just do a little chunk at a time. You've got to keep your eye on the time, right? You can't wait so long or take so long that you're going to run out of time and then you have to rush it. But, just take a deep breath. You know, Ask me a question if you're confused about something. Don't just, suffer silently. Think about things that can help you calm down, that can help you take control, that can help you relax, right? Writer's block is oftentimes just tension that gets in the way, and we can't do anything because we're paralyzed, right? Just figure out something that works for you. Don't let your ego get in the way basically means, listen to criticism. I never make criticism on your essays that's directed at you in order to hurt you or to demoralize you or to diminish the importance of something that has happened. My job is to use objective standards of academic writing to let you know what you can do to make your paper better. And I focus not on giving you a whole bunch of, smiley faces. I focus on telling you what you need to do to make the paper better because frankly that's what I always wanted from feedback from an instructor. Okay, just tell me what I need to do to make it better. And so you have to lower your ego to accept that criticism because it's meant in the spirit of making you better, right? I also know that part of my ego sometimes gets in the way is that I fall in love with something that I've written, and it's really hard for me to change it or to delete it if it doesn't really work with the other parts of the essay as a whole because like, oh, this is so beautiful, I can't leave it out, but it doesn't work, right? So you have to learn to do that stuff as well. And then revising stages, I've kind of already mentioned this, right? Just do it bits at a time. That means that you've got more revision drafts, but do one draft where you're just really focused on one or two particular issues and then come back and do another draft that's focused on other things as opposed to trying to do everything at once, right? And again, lastly, here in this section is, writing is a very individual process. What I'm telling you is a scientifically based process that we know works for people. But there are a whole lots of ways that you can do this that would be different from somebody else who's doing the same steps, right? So basically, you've got to understand who you are and figure out what are the tools that help you create an effective essay. And then you need to just use those things. Try out different techniques, right? You're not going to know if somebody thing works if you don't try it out. But don't necessarily feel like you're a failure if you do what somebody else does and that doesn't really help you, right? Again, we all have to figure out our own methods to get us to that final point. So one of the things that you can do is you can revise with an outline. If you click this link right here in your textbook, it's going to take you to the section about doing a formal outline. Basically means that once you've written your first draft, go back and outline it, and then look at that outline to see the order of information, see if there's anything missing that needs to be there, right? Outlining it can really help you get a good sense of what's going on in your paper. You can revise with a checklist, and they've given you a checklist to start with. Look at the thesis statement, and they've given you some questions that you can ask to help you hone your thesis statement. The same thing with body paragraphs, introduction, conclusion, sentences, and words. We're going to talk about sentences and word and editing as well. Again, this is an overlapping process. Here we're looking at sentences in terms of effectiveness. Are they varied, right? Should you revise any of these sentences to condense ideas, right? Here, are the words accurate, right? So this is about, again, how does it express the content? And then in editing, we look more about, have you chosen words that are suitable for a particular style or whatever, right? And again, this is very overlapping because it's kind of hard to separate this one from how we do in editing. So again, this is probably going to be something that you want to do after you're sure your content is set. Now go back and look at sentences and words, right? Because it doesn't make a lot of sense to spend a whole lot of time editing your sentences and your words if your ideas aren't set, right? Revise with your instructor's comments. I'm really the only person that you need to listen to when it comes to editing your paper because I'm the one giving the grade, right? So when I make written comments or verbal comments, if you come in and see me in my office or talk to me on the phone, those are important things that you need to do if you want to improve your grade, right? And again, if you're not sure what I mean, ask me for clarification. You can actually then make a conference to come into your instructor. So you may have comments where the teacher gives it to you on your paper and hands that paper back to you. Or you may even have comments that maybe might be done in class as a face-to-face class. I do a lot of that in my face-to-face classes. I have students bring in like a paragraph and I just quickly have them each come up one by one and I give them some very quick verbal feedback, right? But you also can schedule a time, and this can be through Zoom or a telephone or face-to-face, to come in and have a more lengthier conference with me about your paper. You can also schedule time with the writing tutor. We do have tutor.com. That's a free service that you can use. Please realize though that like 1 in 6 students get a really bad tutor on tutor.com. So if you do get help, and I would definitely recommend turning your paper in and having them look at your grammar and mechanics, right? But if you do get help, look at what the assignment is asking you to do and make sure that their help doesn't contradict anything that I have said in a video, that I have said on paper. And then if you're not sure, just contact me, show me what the tutor said, and I can let you know if that's on target or if you should ignore that.